my 10-year-old was bullied until he went silent, and the school blamed him. He came home with bruises and begged to eat lunch alone. The school said he was too intense. I pulled him out, filed a complaint, and now he's finally smiling again. But the damage? It still echoes. He came home with a black eye. That was the first time I knew something was really wrong. Not just name-calling. Not just some rough play at recess. A full-on, swollen purple, can't look me in the eye kind of bruise. And when I asked what happened, he shrugged. Tried to shrug anyway. But his voice cracked when he said, it wasn't a big deal. He's 10. And he already knows how to downplay his own pain. I called the school immediately. Got sent to voicemail. Then the front office told me to email the counselor. The counselor forwarded me to the vice principal. The vice principal finally replied the next morning with a sentence I've been replaying ever since. After reviewing the situation, it appears your son may have provoked the incident. Provoked. Like it was a cause and effect equation. Like whatever happened, my kid must have asked for it. I sat across from him at breakfast the next day and asked again. Tell me what happened. He picked at his cereal. Quiet for a long time. Then said. They said I was weird. Who did? He listed 3 names. One I recognized. That kid has been in trouble before. Another was the son of someone on the PDA. Great. They said I always read alone and talk like a robot and smell like cat food. I tried to laugh to soften it. You don't smell like cat food. I know. But they said it. Then he added like it was an afterthought. And then one of them pushed me into the wall. I typed out 3 different emails that night. All of them started professionally. All of them ended somewhere between fury and pleading. Because how do you tell a school you trusted that you're watching your kid shrink? That he used to come home full of weird jokes and wild ideas and now just fades? That his favorite book is still tucked under his bed, but he hasn't touched it in days? That something fundamental is changing in him, and they're brushing it off like he's the inconvenience? The next meeting was in person. I wore my nicest coat, brought a notepad, smiled too much. Because that's what moms are trained to do. Come correct, stay composed, make sure you don't sound hysterical. The vice principal opened with, we're all doing our best to make sure every student feels supported. I said, my son came home injured. She nodded solemnly. But based on teacher reports, it seems like he has trouble connecting with peers, and sometimes his behavior can be misinterpreted. Misinterpreted? She blinked. He tends to correct other students a lot. He talks during quiet time. He challenges authority. That can escalate social tension. And that justifies being hit? Oh no, of course not. But we have to look at the whole picture. That was the moment I realized what the whole picture meant. They see my kid as a problem. Not a child. Not someone who's hurting. But a checklist of difficult traits that lets them sleep at night while he cries in his room and says, maybe I should just stop talking so much. The week after that meeting, my son stopped wanting to go to school. And I don't mean whining or dragging his feet. I mean real avoidance, faking a stomachache, sitting on the edge of his bed with his backpack in his lap, staring at the floor like walking out the door meant walking into a fire. I just don't want to be there, he said. No tears. Just flat. That scared me more than the black eye. 'Cause I know my kid. He feels big. He gets excited over things other kids roll their eyes at. He tells stories like they're novels. He's never been flat. Something was going out in him. Something I couldn't fix with hugs or cookies or promises that tomorrow would be better. Because it wasn't. I emailed the school again. More direct this time. I said things like ongoing hostile behavior, failure to de-escalate, and safety concern. I CC'd the district. The principal replied herself this time. We understand your concerns and are continuing to observe the classroom dynamics. At this time, we are not seeing behavior from the other students that would warrant disciplinary action. At this time. At this time. So I asked my son again. Did something happen today? He nodded. They put a dead bug in my desk, he said. And when I told the teacher, she said it was probably an accident. An accident? He nodded again. She said not to be so sensitive. I wanted to scream. Instead, I started documenting. Every bruise, every comment, every note. I made a file. I logged every communication. Screenshots. Dates. Times. What was said. Who responded. Who didn't. Because this wasn't just about bullying anymore. It was about the way schools gaslight you when your kid doesn't fit in a neat little box. My son is smart. But he's quirky. He has opinions. He asks too many questions. He corrects people when they get something wrong, not to show off but because he cares about the truth. He plays alone at recess because he likes to build imaginary cities out of rocks and sticks. And somehow that has made him a target. And the school? They've made him the scapegoat. I asked for a classroom change. They said no. Shifting him mid-year would be more disruptive, they told me. More disruptive than bullying? More disruptive than losing your entire sense of self at 10 years old? I started reaching out to other parents. Quietly. Carefully. And guess what? I wasn't the only one. One mom said her daughter told her the same boys were mean to anyone weird. Another said her son used to sit with mine at lunch but stopped because he didn't want to get made fun of too. Peer pressure starts young. So does silence. The final straw was the lunchroom. He came home with his tray barely touched. Said he got dared to drink ketchup and when he wouldn't, they dumped some on his hoodie. He asked to eat lunch in the library. They said no, supervision concerns. He asked to eat with a teacher. They said no, not allowed. So he just sat through lunch. In the cafeteria. Surrounded. Every day. Until he started pretending he wasn't hungry at all. I stopped emailing. I started calling. Every day. Polite but relentless. I used words like liability and legal obligation. I started quoting district policy. I asked for the anti-bullying plan in writing. I asked for data. Incident logs. Witness accounts. Copies of emails. They didn't like that. But they listened. A little. They finally scheduled a meeting with the school counselor. I went in expecting support. Instead, she smiled and said, "He's very bright. But he's also emotionally intense. Sometimes peers don't respond well to that." I said, "So your solution is?" "Resilience training," she said. "We're going to help him cope better." Cope better. Like being the one getting bullied is a test of his character. Like learning to endure cruelty is some kind of developmental milestone. I said, "He doesn't need resilience. He needs protection." She blinked. "Of course. We're just trying to empower him." Empower him? He's 10. He still believes in aliens and asks if the moon can hear him when he talks out loud. He doesn't need empowerment. He needs adults to do their damn jobs. That night, I told my son we were looking at new schools. His face didn't light up. He just said, "Do you think I'll be normal there?" I felt something crack inside me. Because he wasn't asking to be popular. He was asking to be safe. I didn't want to be that mom. You know the one, calls the district, shows up at board meetings, sends emails with, "per my last message" in bold. The kind of parent staff rolls their eyes at behind closed doors. But that version of me? She got results. So I became her. I stopped begging. I started documenting. I stopped smiling through meetings. I started quoting policy line by line. And when I got tired of hearing, "We're monitoring the situation," I made sure someone above them started monitoring them. It began with a formal complaint. I emailed the superintendent. CC'd the school board. Attached every message, every injury log, every tone-deaf reply I'd received. The subject line? Ongoing safety concern regarding bullying and administrative inaction. I sent it at 8:32 a.m. Got a response at 10:09. Suddenly, everyone wanted to talk. Funny how that works. But here's the part that still makes me nauseous. They didn't disagree with me. Not one person said, "That's not what happened." Not one person defended the bullies. Not one person claimed my kid was lying. Instead, they danced around phrases like unfortunate oversight and insufficient follow-through. They used words like miscommunication, staffing challenges, and "we understand your frustration." What they never said. "We failed your son." Because saying that would mean admitting they saw the signs and looked away. And they did. Meanwhile, my son stopped talking at school altogether. Not out of protest. Out of survival. He said, "It's easier if I just pretend I'm invisible." When I told the counselor, she called it a behavioral adjustment. I called it trauma. He's 10. He should be wondering how many marshmallows he can fit in his mouth at once. Not calculating how to mute his personality so he doesn't get targeted. The final push came from a surprise source, his art teacher. She emailed me after class one day. Said she noticed he was different lately. Quieter. Drawing more shadows, fewer colors. Less dragons, more empty spaces. "He doesn't smile as much," she wrote. "Whatever's happening, it's changing him." That was it. I stopped asking for help. I started making moves. I requested his full academic file. I researched nearby schools with anti-bullying programs and smaller class sizes. I called a family advocate, someone who helps parents navigate the school system because let's be honest, it's built to exhaust you. And then I sat my son down. I told him, "We're leaving." He didn't cheer. He didn't cry. He just said, "Okay." Like someone who'd been holding their breath for months and finally got permission to exhale. Transferring wasn't easy. We had to wait for a space to open. We had to jump through bureaucratic hoops. There were forms, interviews, questions like, "Is he a behavior concern? And what services has he received?" They asked me to explain him. I did. Not like the old school did. Not with warning labels. But with love. He's imaginative. Smart. Curious. A little intense. He asks questions. He notices things most people miss. And he cares deeply. They nodded. One administrator smiled and said, "We like intense kids. They change the world." I nearly cried. His last day at the old school felt surreal. No send-off. No goodbye. Just a quiet exit through the side door with his backpack and a folder full of records they handed me like a clearance slip. No apology. No acknowledgement. And honestly, good. Because we were done giving people the chance to care. The new school was different from the first day. Not perfect. Not magical. Just different. They welcomed us in with zero assumptions. No side eyes. No vague warnings about adjustment periods. Just a tour of the classrooms, introductions to the staff, and one sentence that made me want to hug the admissions director. Let's give him some space to just be a kid again. No behavior plan. No social skills worksheet. Just space. And for the first time in a long time, I saw my son breathe. The first week he was cautious. He didn't say much. Didn't rush into friendships. He clung to routine like a lifeline. Same snack, same seat at lunch, same hoodie every day like armor. But no one teased him for it. Not one kid mocked his book choices. Not one teacher called him too much. No ketchup ended up on his hoodie. And when I picked him up on Friday, he handed me a paper airplane he made in art class and said, "I didn't mess up this one." That nearly broke me. Because he didn't say it with pride. He said it like he was used to expecting failure, and surprised it hadn't shown up yet. I spent weeks unwinding what the old school had done to him. He flinched when he got questions wrong. He over-apologized when he bumped into someone. He told me quietly that he didn't want to make trouble at this school. So I told him the truth. Being yourself is never trouble. He nodded but didn't believe it. Not yet. Healing takes time. And trust. And repetition. So I repeated it. Every day. Until one day he did too. We started seeing a therapist. Someone who specialized in childhood trauma. She was patient. Soft-voiced. She gave him fidget toys and let him talk in spirals. Jumping from Minecraft to anxiety to space exploration to bullying and back to Minecraft. He told her about the bug in his desk. The ketchup on his hoodie. The jokes he didn't understand but laughed at anyway just to fit in. She told me afterward, he doesn't think the bullying was about him. He thinks it is him. That sentence gutted me. But it also gave me clarity. Because my job now wasn't just about protecting him from others. It was about teaching him he's worth protecting at all. 2 months into the new school, something changed. It was subtle. He started humming again when he brushed his teeth. Started telling me facts about clouds again like he used to. Started correcting me about dinosaur names, even though he hesitated at first, like he was waiting to be told to cut it out. And then one Friday I picked him up and he had paint on his hands. "Art class?" I asked. He nodded. "They let us finger paint today. You like it?" He smiled, wide. I didn't even care if it looked weird. I just liked how it felt. That was the moment I knew. He was coming back. Piece by piece. The old school never followed up. No apology. No, "How's he doing?" No acknowledgement that they failed a child on their watch. And honestly, I stopped caring. Because they weren't the ending. They were just a chapter. A painful, unforgettable one, but not the last. And definitely not the one that defines him. The other night, I tucked him into bed and he looked up at me and said, "I think I'm braver now." I asked, "Why's that?" He said, "Because I know I don't have to be quiet to be safe." I kissed his forehead and said, "That's the bravest thing you've ever said." And it was.